Hey everyone, and a massive welcome to the next episode here on InfoSec Live of the CISO Experience. My name's Simon Lindstead. I'm the host and founder of the InfoSec Live community. I'm very excited to be talking with another of our industry's leaders today. This time it's Jason Loomis, CISO from Freshworks, to share his journey and talk about the challenges in our industry and, of course, the important successes as well. But before we begin, if you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe. We do try and make these events as interactive as possible. So if you've got any questions, make sure you do drop them in the chat. But before we begin, a little bit more about the InfoSec Live community for anyone who hasn't come across us before. We were founded last year. We're an independent social network community of 3,000 cyber professionals, all sharing best ideas and practice. And we've been creating content on YouTube now for around about 10 months. I'm very excited to announce that over the last 2 weeks, we qualified for the YouTube Partner Program, thanks to you, our viewers, with over 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 hours of content viewed. So a massive thank you to everyone in our amazing community for doing that. You should also see new and exciting ways to support the YouTube community and, importantly, the new InfoSec Live Scholarship Scheme, which launched 2 weeks ago, with 7 of our community members being selected for a bespoke and funded career pathway. So how can you support? Well, if you can, there's the ability now to purchase super stickers in the chat. What that will do is bump your question up to the top to make sure you get noticed. And there's also 3 tiers of membership, allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. Special thanks to our latest 2 members, Aaron Lax and KevTech. Your support is very, very much appreciated. So again, I've said it enough now, but it really is important. A massive thank you for supporting the community. Whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. And for us to keep bringing you valuable and informative content on the CISO Experience, got to say a big thank you to the support of our amazing sponsor, Bramfit Technology Labs. So before we bring Jason on, a little bit about Bramfit. Bramfit are an international cybersecurity consultancy leading the way in innovation and cyber resilience, with their entire team being owner-managed and working on a linear structure, drawing expertise from the military, government, finance, and the tech industry. Together, they provide support and collaboration to those who protect company assets and sensitive data. And if you're a CISO suffering from Big Four fatigue, reach out to Bramfit today to see how they can help. I will bring their link up in the chat, but today is about our guest, and our guest is Jason Loomis of Freshworks, the CISO there. Freshworks are a global provider of software as a service customer engagement solutions for IT, customer service, sales, marketers, and HR. Jason's also a cybersecurity board advisor for Principia Growth, a mid to late stage growth investment firm. He's a BS in MIS from the University of San Francisco and an MBA from the University of Oregon. He's also CISSP, CISM, CISA, multiple GIAC, and SCUBA certified. And really, yes, he does mean SCUBA. It's the most exciting and relatable of his certifications. They're his words, not mine, but we're going to dig into that in a bit. But while cybersecurity may be his chosen career path, his passion, drive, and intellectual curiosity are in leadership, organizational decision-making, and giving to those who had less through national and international disaster relief. He also frequently argues the case with himself that it's these very interests that make him a better cybersecurity practitioner. It's not entirely clear who's winning that argument or why he bothers arguing with such a frustrating person. Jason, this is the best intro that anyone's ever sent me, by the way, before I bring you on. Nearly there. In his spare time, because he lives in Los Angeles and there is a city ordinance that every resident must have a podcast, he's also co-host of a podcast called F-Sides, or fsides.com if you want to check that out, about the human side of cybersecurity, which for anyone who's watched this before will know that's my favorite subject. He's also an avid snowboarder, into beach volleyball and fitness, and just picked up surfing in May this year. So let's bring him on and find out more about it. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, Simon. Thanks for having me on, man.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I hope I didn't assassinate your intro there.
No, you did great, because I could tell you haven't read it before. That's how naturally it should be read. You're like, hey, this is great. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
The worst thing is, Jason, I had read it before, but it was about 2 weeks ago. So with the way my brain's working at the moment, it was like reading it again for the first time. So I thank you.
Great. That was an excellent intro.
Thank you. So look, I've given everyone a little bit of background about yourself. I'm sure you can give a little bit more about how your journey into cybersecurity began. Would you mind starting on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I probably, like a lot of people out there in cybersecurity or in tech, or really probably most of us in our careers, and when you're in high school and college, you think you're going to be an archaeologist or a firefighter. And when life hits you, you're like, oh, look, I'm doing something I would have never guessed. So I was going through junior college here in the States. It's it's the takes you anywhere from 2 to 8 years to finish the first 2 years of college. I was on that long road, and I was bartending, waiting tables, just getting by, and kind of stumbled into it. It was my mother who recommended this. There was a big MCSE Microsoft certification path, and she made it sound like they were handing out jobs like candy at Halloween. Turns out it was true. As soon as I got my certification, I got a job with a big finance institution, Bank of America, and just it kind of took off from there. A lot of luck, working with the right position at the right time and getting the right opportunity with hard work has to combine those two. And I just got a lot of luck with finding the right positions and the right leadership.
It's funny though, Jason, isn't it? How much hard work relates to luck?
You got to have both, man. Like there's hard workers out there that haven't had the luck and the opportunity that I have had, and they're probably not CISOs. And and a lot of CISOs that don't put in hard work may just get lucky, or people just in general. So I totally think luck is a factor that's should be accounted for, even though you can't control it.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, so then, and I got lucky to pivot into security about 12 years ago through a combination of factors. One was meeting my podcast co-host, Paul Love. He's my mentor. Him and another fellow that he was co-wrote books with named Gene Kim were kind of I call it the heart of getting into security. And then another coincidence, I happened to pick up a job that was very HIPAA focused, which is the American Healthcare Privacy Information Act. That was my first real intro into security, and just got lucky through that I pivoted over to focus on security and have a great run for the last 3 companies I've been CISO of. I've been CISO of Fabletics. I was CISO at a company called MindBody for about 4.5 years, another global SaaS solution provider. And I just started with Freshworks 2 months ago, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store.
Is it a first CISO position at Freshworks, or are you taking over from someone else?
I'm taking over from someone else.
You are? Okay. I mean, I asked the question because there seem to be so many companies out there at the moment who are taking on their first CISO. Spoke to a few people the last few weeks.
Yeah. If listeners out there, great opportunity to pad your resume a bit. I have tips on that of how to get, if you've never, it's that age old, this was always frustrating when I was bartending, was to getting my foot in the door to bartend, you had to have experience. But how do you get experience if you never have it? So it's the same with CISOs, is they expect you to have experience, but you got to start somewhere. So ideas and tips are, get a deputy CISO title, put CISO just somewhere in your resume, and just, make it and tune it so that you're ready for that. Because they are looking for entry level. They're looking for people that have been directors, maybe even a VP, but maybe not necessarily a CISO, but somebody who can grow into the role. So I think it's a great opportunity for people right now.
I think again, there's massive amounts of opportunities out there for those roles, and I think over the next few years, recession aside, we're going to see more companies having to engage and take security seriously. In fact, I had a conversation last night with someone who's got a very, very extensive law enforcement background here in the UK. They've now been working in security for about 5 or 6 years, and I think with the combined experience from law enforcement, the investigative side, and the experience they've had now, they're now looking to take that next step up in their career. So I think if it's okay with you, I'm going to see if I can connect you both up later. You might be able to give them some pointers.
Yeah, happy to. Absolutely. Happy to. Anybody want to find me on LinkedIn, you have questions or anything that I can do to help, but let
me find I have just dropped in the link for the F-Sides podcast. So if anyone wants to check that out, and if you see me doing 2 things at once, I can't talk and type. I'm just going to find Jason's profile on.
And in fact, our first episode of this season 2 comes out next week on the 15th, and we talk with a guy named James Warren. He's one of the best recruiters I've ever worked with, and we literally focus the entire episode talking about how to get your foot in the door into security and what are some tips and tricks to do that.
And when is that, Jason?
November 15th. It'll release on Spotify, Apple, or go right to the website.
Brilliant, thank you. And I don't normally do it this quick, but we have had a question come in already, so I'm going to bring it up if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, wow, that's great.
Cut off half of your face as well by the looks of it. Sorry about that. What if it's the case that when you don't have enough experience, but you have a job offer on a position as a CISO? Is it right to decline the offer and start from the beginning?
Is it right? Let's take the "is it right" out of that. I'll give you take the position. Some of the best advice I got is fake it till you make it. And it absolutely is true. When I had my first CISO job, I didn't know what the F, to be honest, I still don't know what I'm doing.
Of course you did.
Every day is fear and imposter syndrome and something I haven't dealt with as CISO before. There's no CISO that knows everything. And if they are, they're lying. It's challenging every day. So starting fresh, take the role, take the opportunity, kill it. And you know what? If you don't kill it and you failure, hey, no big deal. You pick
It's the
yourself back up,
best way to
and
learn,
you go
isn't it?
again.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And don't forget, there aren't that many people in our industry who've got 20 years experience to step in
No,
the
this is a
CISO
new.
role.
CISOs haven't been around that long.
No,
Yeah, absolutely. So when they're that's why you mentioned earlier, Simon, is that there's such a draw for this first time position in companies because the role just never really existed before.
I think you can tell that, no disrespect to any of these companies that I've spoken to, by the way, if you're watching, but you can tell that they're struggling to know where to go with it. Good example, company I spoke to, I won't say who they are for obvious reasons, but 100 million turnover, fairly established in the UK. They've never done anything about security. They have all of their IT outsourced to I would say, a very small managed service provider. So what do you think the first thing is they looked for? It was a pen test, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a pen test they needed, was it, Jason? Let's be honest, not at this stage. I mean, they probably will at some point, but it helps to know that if you know what you've got first is probably a good place to start.
Pen test is such the go-to. I mean, pen tests are great. They're powerful. They can help. But when you think your higher security program is all focused on, well, we did a pen test, we're good. It's like, facepalm, Picard facepalm.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, pen tests are hugely important as part of the ongoing review of your security posture. But to do that as your first step into the market, and I think
so many other. I'd start with a cybersecurity risk assessment.
Yeah,
is what they should start with.
The thing is, it's an education piece for these companies, isn't it? Because all they're doing is being told by their insurance companies or whoever it may be that they need to have a pen test. So it's trying to help them understand that, and that leads us nicely, seamlessly, and not intentionally, onto your focus, which is the human side of being a CISO.
Yeah. I think it's overlooked. I think it's undervalued. I think the organizational leadership, what it takes for someone to be a good leader in general, it's not specific to security. I just happen to be in cybersecurity. It's like I said in my profile statement was, it's my job is a leader. I could be leading a team of cooks, chefs. I could be leading a team of bartenders. I'm going to use the same approach for it, and making a team successful has nothing to do with security. And the tech always seems to be the focus. It's like, well, what tech are you using? What's your, here's how security works. And I'm sure the audience probably knows, Simon, you've heard this. The audience probably has heard this too. In this order: people, process, technology. Yeah. And it's exactly in that order for a cybersecurity program. You start with the people, make sure your people are happy, they're being led correctly, build the processes for a security program. Tech is the last thing you should worry about.
I think the problem is, well, in my non-expert opinion, coming into the industry, I mean, less than 2 years ago now, from a financial services and sales background, it's very dominated by some massive players with some massive budgets who sell silver bullet solutions. And I think that might have something to do with people's focus on technology. But again, when people say people, process, technology, the people bit, it isn't just putting in place, cyber education program that people can sit on their computer and do for 10 minutes a month, is it? It's much deeper than that.
Yeah. Security.
Do I sound cynical today? By the way?
No, not at all. You sound pragmatic.
Thank you. Much better.
Which here in the States means everybody's an a-hole. No, I'm just kidding.
It means
it's true, man. Security awareness training is, that's the checkbox. It's, this is, we can talk forever on this. It's are you compliant? Yeah, I got a security awareness training. Somebody watches for 10 minutes. It's like, oh. It's more than that. It's engaging your employees. It's understanding what they're looking at, and having a little more of the human contact to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a good question coming again. Should CISO have knowledge in finance and law? Doesn't hurt. Yeah. Ask the one from who was it the other week who went to jail? He probably could have done a reading.
I absolutely. This question: should a CISO have knowledge in finance and law? Yes, it's not needed to become a CISO, but to be any good business leader. So I cheated. I went and got my MBA. So I got that finance and law background as part of my master's in business. You don't need to have a master's. You can go read books, go to the library. Yes, you should understand basic finance because you have to be able to manage budgets, and you need to be able to speak to the business in their terms, which is, at the end of the day, it's dollars. It's not risk. It's not, hey, we should really do this for endpoint detection or training. Like, how much money are we going to lose if we don't do it, kind of thing. So you need to understand that and understand where you fit into the budget and the big picture of what drives revenue for the company. So yes, you should know it.
You do. And also having a finance background myself, it's the terminology around the risk as well. It's a slightly different language when you've got a finance director talking about risk compared to a cyber expert, perhaps.
Yep. I just saw Mason Kokis. I'm probably slaughtering the name, but Mason's post here this is actually one of my favorite quotes. This isn't the exact quote, but Bruce Schneier, he is a security thought leader in crypto, and he has this great statement. He says, "If you think security, hang on, now I can't remember it when I say it's my favorite quote."
There was me telling you I was having mind blanks today, Jason. Look,
if you think technology can solve your security problems, then you don't understand technology and you don't understand security. And absolutely true. Quote. Tech is not the solution. It's people and process. Technology supports the people and process.
David Moelem jumping in the chat. Great to see you, David. Good friend of mine. He's been in the community since the start last year. He's got a question for you there. Jason, on your path towards CISO, what do you wish you would have done differently, if anything, I'll caveat there, in preparing for your first CISO role? Great question, David.
Oh, Oive, that's a great question. It's a tough one.
I mean, a bit of framing. David's been very hands-on technical, been in the industry a long time, decided to focus on security. I think, David, I'm getting this right, last couple of years. So he's looking to come in, I suppose, at a leadership kind of management type position. So I think that is why he's asked the question, if that helps.
There is nothing I honestly would do different. Like I got lucky because I got the position just like the previous, whoever the person had asked before, I got offered the role, take it. Yeah. I got offered the role, I took it. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I still do like I do at work. I'm constantly murmuring to myself, don't F it up, don't F it up, don't F it up. It's part of the role, and just go for it. So there is nothing I would have done different.
That's perfectly normal behavior, Jason. I think for anyone in a leadership position, isn't it?
Yes, and to be honest, it's a leadership quality to be able to show vulnerability like that.
Yeah,
and you should be able to. Don't be afraid of saying when you don't know something. Say, you know what? I actually have no idea about that. Can you tell me what you know? And let me get back to you in a couple of days. Let me go do some homework and come back. I do that constantly.
Yeah. Well, something you said earlier about if anyone says they're an expert on everything, it's a lie, which I don't know if they're your exact words, but it was around that point.
Close enough.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. The industry is so broad with so many different areas in it. For me, having a little bit of knowledge or a decent bit of knowledge across the board can make you a very powerful person, I think, in the leadership place in cyber. And I would even argue perhaps for certain types of firms as a CISO, you wouldn't have to have an in-depth technical background, especially if, I mean, some firms, you're part of the sales process. CISO is part of that sales enablement process. And I think that will become more and more as regulation comes in, as things change, as awareness increases. It's going to become, security is going to be a business enabler. And I think it is for a lot of companies now. Is that part of your role at the moment, Jason?
This is a good topic, Simon. I want to spend a few minutes on this. It is currently part of my role. I have the biggest team I've ever had dedicated. I think I have 8 people. We call it the go-to-market team. And their job is simply to work with sales and marketing teams and our customers to understand our security posture, our certifications, what we can and can't do, and respond to, when you work in security, you'll get these questionnaires. If you're a SaaS company and you're providing technology as a service, they want to know how secure your platform is. So they'll send questionnaires of anywhere from 100 to 300 to 5 security questionnaires for before we can use their, which they should. They're doing due diligence to make sure that our platform's secure. So I have a dedicated team for that. The team is so rock solid and rock star, and I've only been here 2 months, that they've got it handled. It's rare yet that I have to come in, but if they ask and you're a large customer, absolutely, I'm the face of my last organization. It was me and 2 other people that would be the face of the company and do the response. I had a team that would respond, but it was only 2. This is the first time I've had a dedicated function at this level because the business, Freshworks, knows how important security is. And so they've, and it's driven that to show, look how many deals, how many people have signed up with our company because of our security posture and our great security program. That team has enabled that and enabling that. So it can be. Although, so the part that I wanted to dig in a little bit on this topic is you hear this a lot. If you're in cybersecurity, you're going to hear a lot of people give you advice that, well, you need to be able to show. You said it perfectly, Simon. It was show the value of security to the business, like make security a revenue generator.
Yeah,
I got to call shenanigans on that because if you're Nike, for example, you're not going to go buy a pair of shoes because of their security program. That's not a revenue generator. It's very not. True. No. Yeah, SaaS, like our company, absolutely it can be because it's part of, they're using our solution to store data. So the security aspect has a big tie-in to how we make money as a company. But Nike, H&M, there's so many business models out there and so many different types of companies that you can't just blanket state that.
You can't. However, I suppose my only caveat to that is, reputational risk is obviously a huge thing as well. And whilst
Yes.
it doesn't then become part of the initial sales enablement process, I don't know. There's been a few recently we've seen where people's data has been leaked from different providers, and I know for a fact, I'm not going to ever use the ones again that I've seen that happen to. And I know it's only a pair of trainers, but you've still got to think maybe in the back of people's minds when they're seeing that negative press, perhaps it still
No,
has an
that is
impact.
true, and that ties to that question we had earlier about finance, right? That's why
Yeah.
as a CISO, you're going to tie the previous thing is how go to market is you're tying it to revenue. Like you're actually
Yeah.
kind of you're really generating revenue because of that. What we're talking is risk, right? The loss of revenue due to reputational risk, and that's the
Yes.
majority of where cybersecurity fits is around
Yeah.
risk or the percentage chance of loss of revenue or increase of cost because of an incident or something. So those are typically the ones that you focus on.
It's back to that dollar, I suppose, using the dollar as the risk metric rather than anything else when talking to the board and talking to the C-suite, in a language that they can understand. And I think CISOs like yourself, you've got that MBA, you've got that bit, not necessarily the MBA, like you said earlier, but if you've got the knowledge of how finance work, how business work. I mean, I didn't realize how much relevant, I suppose, knowledge I had from financial services and running a business that there was to bring across, especially with things like disaster recovery plans, all the business continuity plans, all the things that I spent 20 years putting together and helping clients with and doing for myself. All of a sudden, it's actually quite relevant to this as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Although
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
my least favorite part of the job, so I'm not looking for work there.
Good disclaimer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got a couple more questions in there. Jeff, great to see you, my friend. With businesses considering Web3 opportunities, let me bring this up. Here's half your face gone again. Such as NFTs, membership coins, etc. Do you feel this is too early? You need to do this. Do you feel this is too early, being that organizations are struggling to implement basic security in traditional 2.0? Great question, Greg. Jeff.
Oh man, yes, yes, and yes. I would high five Jeff if we were here physically in a room. If I could virtual high five, I'll high five. It's the basics, man. Like security, my opinion, the best cybersecurity framework is called the Center for Internet Security Top 18 Critical Security Controls.
Yeah.
If you do just this subset of these basic controls, you're going to reduce, and it's been proven through Australia's cybersecurity program and multiple studies that if you just do the basics, you reduce 85% of your risk. And so many companies don't do the basics. And it's typically the basics that bites you. You look at all the major hacks and breaches, it's something very simple. It's administrative, poorly administrative rights, not deploying MFA correctly or enough, across the organization. It's very simple stuff. So this whole, you'll see this in marketing from cybersecurity companies, AI, ML, this is, look, we can solve all these problems with you with this more advanced.
I love that everything's got AI now, by the way. When really
everything's
nothing,
AI.
nothing
Right?
has. It's all machine
Solve all my
learning, isn't it?
problems. It's the basics, man. It is the basics. And CIS is a great place to start. Start with your inventory. You got to know what you're protecting. And most people never have a clear picture of their inventory. I would start with that.
I completely agree. And I suppose I'm not going to put words in your mouth here, but I'm going to try and get you to say something, I think. So why is it that people don't address the basics, Jason? Why do you think that is? Because people have budget.
Because it can be hard.
Yeah.
It can be difficult. And it's a lot of times senior leadership, if you don't understand, not telling the story the right way, the senior leadership will think that, if I go buy this flashy tool, my problems are solved. They fall for that whole marketing gimmick of we need technology. Technology will solve this versus why don't you just get good inventory so we know what we're even dealing with, number one.
Yeah.
That's
how can you protect what you don't know you have?
Yes, data inventory is number 3 on the CIS. Do you even know where I would bet the large, vast companies don't know where all their data is. And that's going to become, to be honest, I think one of the bigger drivers we're going to see in cybersecurity over the next 5 years.
So in that, with regards to that comment then, are you talking about cloud services there?
It can be cloud, it can be on-prem, it's third party. It's where is my data? Where is it going? Where is it kept? Data sprawl and doing good data inventory. Nobody that I know of has cracked that problem yet, where there is a very comprehensive data program where we know where our data is, who has access to it, and where it's going. That's going to be a problem, especially with the increase in privacy regulation.
Absolutely. The reason I asked the question is I've seen 2 companies in the last 2 weeks on social media saying that they're moving back from the cloud, moving away from the cloud to on-site. And these were cybersecurity firms. So that's kind of why I asked you the question. I didn't know why they were doing that.
I don't know either. I was born in a data center.
Yeah.
I literally was. I was born in a data center. So I used to build data centers so I worked in banking finance, and a Bank of New York Mellon was a big chunk of my experience. And we designed a data center, and I was always on prem. And I would never bet 10 years ago I would have been pro cloud. It changed my mind. I was anti cloud. I was like, why would I want to give somebody else control over something? I want to have full control. The problem is that I don't have the visibility. Cloud gives me, because it's all in code.
Yeah.
I see everything. I see configurations. I see vulnerabilities. I can look at every single thing. Where in a data center, you're relying on humans to enter the record of the system being there.
I mean, now look, I hate this expression because it has turned into a bit of a sales gimmick. But that single pane of glass, I suppose, approach where you've got the relevant information in one place. And again, I'm not a techie, but from my understanding of cloud services, is there are a lot of add-on kind of security bits that you can integrate into that can save you a lot of headaches that you wouldn't have, perhaps.
Yeah, there's so much advancement has been made in, I'll use the Gartner acronyms for these because Gartner loves its acronyms. CISM, which is Cybersecurity Asset Attack Surface Management Solutions, has solved the inventory problem, in my opinion, where you could never get a good cybersecurity focused inventory. You're relying on help desk telling you, service desk telling you. That solved it, and that's based on this whole cloud opening APIs and being able to, leverage open API interfaces across multiple systems and mostly SaaS-based systems. And then CNAP, which is the new sort of aggregation of cloud security like CSPM, cloud security posture management, vulnerability management, and cloud workload protections, and putting them into one platform would have never been capable. You can't do that in a data center.
No, absolutely. And just going back to, before I jump into the chat, because we've got a few questions in there, going back to Freshworks. So I don't actually know much about what Freshworks do. Could you just give us a bit of an idea of what Freshworks do, Jason?
Sure. Wow, and put me on the spot because it's only this is my second month. 60 days in. Yeah, and we have this. Yeah, we call it the first 100 days of being a CISO. That's like where you're just a big sponge and
drinking from the fire hose. Yeah.
Try not to make any decisions in that first 100 days, even though you get asked to make decisions. I'm like, no. Can you just get back to me in 100 days while I learn what the heck we're doing? Freshworks is a SaaS business solution provider. Two of our biggest products are Freshservice, which is a ITSM based sort of, your internal help desk. It's an internal help desk ITIL based management system. So competing with like ServiceNow. ServiceNow is this big, huge behemoth. We're a much more agile and user-friendly and easy-to-use platform. Another one is Freshdesk, which allows like customer service and interaction with customers across what we call omni-channel. So the ability to, somebody's interested in what I have to sell, I can chat, I can call them, I can interface with them via email, I can, the entire process is tracked and flowed.
You're basically not only removing the barriers for people to engage, but you're also tracking the engagement of the people that have come in as well, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
That excites me with a 30-year sales background. That does excite me a little bit.
Big sales platform. We have sales and marketing platform, and then we're also getting into HR management, which if the big Workdays of the world or these big behemoth solutions, and we're challenging that with, hey, we can do this lighter weight, faster, and quicker.
Yeah, the agility and the size is hugely important, and I think there's lots of firms out there getting sick of dealing with perhaps the big four and other companies because you don't get that level of service. And I think engaging with a smaller company, and I'll use our sponsor Bramfit as an example, whilst they're not tiny, they've got 50 technical consultants around the world, and they pick up a lot of enterprise level business from firms who have been using big four because they don't get the service. So I completely agree with the agility and the size thing. And I'm excited to see what happens with Freshworks next, Jason.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, we just released our quarterly results. We're like 37% year-over-year growth. So we're definitely in a time when market volatility is really tough. We're crushing it. So
as my grandmother would have said, you're cooking on gas, Jason.
Yeah.
unlike us in the UK here, who're struggling with gas, but that's
my team is just so awesomely talented. Like when you inherit as a CISO, a lot of times I was brought in to either fix or build. Yeah. This is the first time I come in and I'm like, wow, they've got everything figured out. What do I do here?
Don't say that now.
They're awesome. I know, right? You're like, hey, it's Freshworks just like other CISO. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Let's jump in the chat. So, Jeff, we've looked at your comment. Gigi Alexandra, going back to something we were talking about earlier, is it a revenue generator in the way that secure platforms remove blocks for revenue? Is the first question.
I look at it. GG, is it GG? Yeah, GG or
yeah.
Alexandra GG? GG. I look at it like it's more of it's a competitive advantage to the security of our product compared to when they're comparing us to other products is the revenue generators. Like they're going to sign up for a service. They have a business need. They're going to go with us because we are ISO 27001, ISO 27701. We are SOC 2 Type 2. We are HIPAA compliant. That list, adds up so that not everybody has those certifications, and that sets us above the pack. And how, the maturity and advancement of our cybersecurity program, when they're looking at their third-party risk, we're going to be a low-risk partner.
It must. I mean, without wanting to dip into technical details and start slating the competition, however, I'm sure you can demonstrate that security a lot easier than a company who's been around 20 years, 15 years, who've got all that legacy stuff kicking around as well, Jason, perhaps.
Oh boy. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's the other thing. Freshworks was born in AWS. That's where it started. So we are 100% cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. We have got, I'm really sorry, but I cannot read your name. So what I want is to become a self-made virtual CISO by my own. What would your advice be to have a good start?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, probably getting a CISO position first is going to be your best track so that you have that on your resume. And then you become, hey, I've been a CISO. Now I can go consult as a virtual CISO for other companies. Unless you just mean a remote CISO.
Yeah. So sticking on that then, Yuri, thank you for confirming your name there. Would you suggest then perhaps a smaller company that's first looking to engage with a CISO or?
Yeah. To get the vCISO, Simon, or just to the CISO
to get that first step. You said become a CISO, CISO first.
Get it on your resume, man. It's a title. It's nothing more than a title. Even if it's a 10-person company, to be honest, when people are looking at the jobs, they're just going to look at your title. Oh, he's been a CISO. They don't go further than that. Be like, oh, it's a small revenue company. You've been a CISO. It's on your resume. Go small and then build your way up. When I've gone continually to a larger organization and a larger role in my career path because I started small with Fabletics, whereas a team of maybe we had at the peak 7 or 8 people on my team. Now I'm at a team of 70. And you slowly just progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And the next one, we got someone here. Look, nice to see you again, Jason. I've had Jason on stage a number of times, virtually and physically, for some great CISO discussions. Love his insights. Thank you.
I am so trying to figure out who I know with a first letter name M.
And they've got to be in NYC, haven't they?
And in New York, right?
Yeah. maybe they'll drop in and let us know.
Maybe they'll chat in. Thank you for saying hi, whoever that was.
So Lee Gilbank, great to see you, my friend. He's jumped in. Relying on humans is awesome, as they never do anything wrong.
Yes. Human beings it's the biggest risk in cybersecurity. Everybody, it's probably overplayed, but it's absolutely true. Where is your biggest risk? Humans, human behavior. Absolutely.
And I tell you, my opinion on that is there's a lot of blame and finger pointing going around. And I think the way it's dealt with within some organizations where, they're our weakest link, it becomes like an us and them if it's not done properly. And I think even with some of the cyber awareness training you see, penalizing people for not doing well and shaming them is definitely not the way forward. What are your thoughts on that, Jason?
Oh, I have many pet peeves in cybersecurity.
Please.
If any of you have ever dealt with being audited by a compliance control, like say High Trust is a compliance, you got to get certification. They actually look for punitive enforcement of violation of security. And I call shenanigans. I will never punitively enforce somebody breaking with my policy. And it's stupid to do that. You brought it up. Like, no, you don't. People, working with people to make things bad for them is not the way to do it. No. You build them up and like, hey, we got that you failed. Totally. Hey, learn. This is how we can not fail next time. And you'll probably fail again. But I hate that whole like punitive negative aspect towards like, who's the nun in the school that bangs your knuckles with the ruler. Yeah.
It wasn't a nun, but I was privately educated. And it was actually the slipper for me. I got that a few times because I was a pain in the backside.
That's soft and fluffy, or is it like a hard leather one?
It was a nasty slipper. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I think the fluffy,
big pink
fluffy Ugg slipper, right? Apparently not.
That'd be much better. Okay, William Taff. Moving away from the cloud to on-prem raises more risk today, in my opinion. I agree with you, William. Good to see you as well, my friend.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And just for clarification, it's Michael Hiskey.
Hey, Michael. Good to kind of see you. Good for you to see me. I do know Michael. He's awesome. That's right.
Excellent.
Thanks, man.
And the last one, which is Yuri again, that's coming at the moment. If anyone else has got any questions, please do drop them in the chat. How do you make your team strong, motivated, and successful? What is the secret? That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know if I have. There could be a whole nother episode,
I
but
think it
here's where
is.
I'd start. I'd go get the book Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and start with the very first two. It's a great book.
What's it called? Sorry.
The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. I probably slaughtered his last name. But it's a very simple framework. It's an easy read, probably like 100, 125 pages, and it's a story. It's a fable, so it's not like boring thing, but it gives you very pragmatic approach to how to do it. And it all starts with this pyramid approach of these things. And the first two is you gotta build trust, and it's not easy. That takes time and effort over time, and then be able to have conflict with your team.
Yeah.
You got to have the trust first, and then conflict. Meaning, it's a great quote that I live by as a leader. It's by the CEO of Avis, Barry Rand, I think was his name. He said, "If I have a yes man working for me, one of us is redundant.
Yeah.
I expect my team to disagree with me, and if I don't have disagreement, I have what's called groupthink, and that's probably the worst thing ever. That means we're not thinking it through enough. Technical decision making, strategic decision making requires conflict and debate. But to do that, you really got to get them to trust you. And then that gets them buy-in because they have an opinion and they have a say in how the direction of the cybersecurity program or what we're trying to implement and get done goes. And it doesn't matter of your level. If you're an entry-level analyst up to my architect, you're all going to have an equal say and an opinion in it. And that builds that trust and that teamwork.
Let's focus on that because building trust is everything, right? I mean, I use hypnotism as a great example of that. And I've seen some amazing things done with hypnotism. 50% of being hypnotized is the fact you have to trust the person who's doing it. And if you sit down with, I have done a couple of courses. I'm not going to sit here and try and make you go under, but the first kind of half an hour of a meeting with a hypnotist is about rapport. It's about, sharing who they are, them letting you know that they're professional. There's nothing to worry about. They're reassuring you that they're getting you on side. And life's exactly the same, right? People buy off people. You've got to have that trust. But the question I'm coming back to, you mentioned down from sort of SOC analysts up to architects. How do you build that trust with multiple layers in the firm? So you've got C-suite at the top, you've then got your junior analysts at the bottom. What do you do differently, if anything, Jason, to build that trust?
So I do it as a team, and I want to call highlights like, I have a team right now. I have a team of 70. That's manageable to do an offsite where I can engage with each one of the individuals in some group setting. I'm confident of a team of 300 to 400 won't, where I can personally do that, but then I would have people that work for me that do that, and it's like scaling culture. So it's the culture that I build. I do that through team in-person offsites where we go through and we walk through the concepts of 5 dysfunctions of a team. We start with that, and that becomes a language that we repeat year over year over year, because a lot of times you'll do if HR comes in, my wife works in HR, so HR is great, but you'll see that they'll say, "Hey, we just did a whole 5 dysfunctions offsite where we taught you for 3 hours. The team's good," and then they never touch it again, so people forget, and it doesn't become part of your culture or part of your code. You got to repeat what you're building and continually reinforce that. So for me, 5 dysfunctions is a great start and a framework to just repeat across. And then there's a million other things I can talk about that I can go off tangents. Drive is a great book by Daniel Pink that talks about giving your employees autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Those 3 things are what any employee needs to be their best. It's autonomy to run their own day. They control what they do. You don't micromanage. Mastery, let them be able to become the best at what they want to do. That means I'm providing enough training, I'm providing them the time to go learn what they want to do. And then purpose, like are they doing what they love? Is security and you protecting important?
That's the bit, I suppose, where if I was in that position with any team I've ever run before, I always start off by understanding them as individuals first. So obviously we're all got completely different drivers. You hit the nail on the head there. We're driven by different things. We've got different personalities, and we all engage in different ways as well. Some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners, and you can pick up a lot of that on conversations you have with people as well. That they'll use certain terms. If they're a visual learner, they'll say, I don't know, an example, went to the park today and I saw Jude. Or you could say, I was listening to something on the radio the other day, and then that helps you understand how these people learn. For me, understanding people's learning styles, personalities, and importantly, their key drivers, what drives them, Because if you'd spoke to me 6 years ago and asked me what drives me, it would be my Rolex watch collection and the flashy cars I had on the drive, which unfortunately was complete nonsense. And I got it completely wrong. So maybe if I'd spent more time analysing my own personal drivers, I could have got here a lot sooner, Jason.
Yeah, I've heard that, and it is in a dream world. I would know what motivates or the communication styles of all 65 people on my team, but that's
impossible when you've got a big team.
But my directs, absolutely, and I communicate with them. I don't make them communicate with me how I want to communicate. I communicate how they want to communicate.
Absolutely.
And it's, so do you like Slack? Do you like email? Do you prefer we hop on a Zoom? What's your best method?
It's that omni-channel communication that Freshworks is so good at, Jason.
Figure out what your team wants and give it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, another good one. With your finance background, where do you see cyber regulations going in the next year? Ooh, can of worms.
Up until this I'm speaking specifically the United States. Until this midterm election cycle, I would have said the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has a big cybersecurity proposal that they're putting in around notification and cybersecurity risk.
Yeah.
I was going to say
about reporting to the board in that legislation.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. Reporting to the board. I think they've always had the reporting to the board, but they're basically increasing the importance of cybersecurity. That's very simple. Like the SEC is saying, look, you got to start taking cybersecurity seriously, and we're putting in these stricter rules around what you do as a public company. I would have bet 80%, because typically when they come in the proposal form, they go over a couple years of taking input. They'll change it a little bit, but I would have guessed it would have stayed 80% close to that. Yeah. I'm worried that this midterm election is going to go more towards the deregulation side, and it's not going to get pushed through. Because look at the SEC's turnover, has a 20% job turnover. It was made the news recently where, holy crap, 20% of the employees are leaving. They say because it's too regulated and there's too much work to do. So I think what's going to happen is in this next political climate in America, we're going to see more deregulation, and those cybersecurity things are going out the door. That's my bet. Unfortunately, because I think the only way we're going to improve is through regulation.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. I mean, you're talking about the US. Who knows what's going on in the UK at the moment? The government don't even know what they're doing from one day to the next. So
I thought our inflation rate was bad.
It's horrendous. I mean, Bank of England have put rates up 0.75 today.
We did too. Hey, high five.
Yeah. Well, we just copy you, don't we? Let's be honest. Yeah. But the thing that frightens me though is, especially for younger people who've never experienced inflation and have always seen, I suppose, what are historically low interest rates. What we've had over the past 10 years isn't normal, right? 0%, 0.5%, 1% interest rates was never going to continue. It was all off the back of the last recession, quantitative easing, whatever other reasons you want to give. This was always going to happen. It's now how softly we can land, isn't it? And rejig things to make them work. And I think whilst the mechanism of raising interest rates is great, there are so many geopolitical factors at play at the moment that I think it's a nightmare for everyone. And staying on the political front without nailing my colours to any particular mast, because at the moment there isn't a mast in your country or mine that I would nail them to, if I'm honest, because we're both pretty divisive, aren't we?
Yeah, and my opinion is that the president, United States, Congress actually has very little to do with the economy. The economy is a massive beast that has its own socioeconomic drivers to it. That's you said global. It doesn't matter. And they blame a certain political party for the economy. I'm like, they don't really have that much control.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The only caveat to that is Liz Truss and her mini budget that she came out with in the UK. 6 or 8 weeks
that did
ago
cause some
now.
problems.
Well, the reason it caused problems is because she didn't do any research. She didn't show anyone her workings out. She didn't speak to the Office of Budget Responsibility, who everyone speaks to sense check numbers. So again, markets are driven by emotion, right? Markets are driven by emotion. Well, fear played in straight away. People started to panic, and that's what drives markets. And unfortunately, in the interconnected world that we live in, as you rightly say, it's a global economy now. I mean, each individual country will experience it slightly differently. I think the US is faring a bit better in this kind of start of the recession than we are, that's for sure. But you look at all the other countries around the world, there's no one having a good time at the moment. And that's without even mentioning the word China. Let's not go into that one today. So back to the questions, because I see we're running out of time a little bit. We've got about 10 minutes left. Where are we? Mohammed, great to see you, my friend. Regarding where is the data, where is going and who has access, don't they have mapping regarding this?
Mohammed. If only I could wish. No, they don't. Because you can have everything from developers accessing data and doing full SQL queries, grabbing data out. You can have people copying data into CSVs, going into a OneDrive or a Google Drive. You have multiple API connections into your data. An API is the new frontier with security because it's an open. You're doing a public API. How good, we do pen testing of our web interfaces. We've really got that licked, but APIs are really kind of new, and API security is an issue where you're over permissioned or somebody, doesn't write code right, allows someone to query the entire customer database, and next thing you know, it's out there. And then who are you sharing that data with? Get into data lakes, and you know how many people pull the data lake is the new BI, right? You want to let's dump all of our data in one place, and now we could get some business intelligence around it. But that is a repository of all your company data, your financial, your transaction records. And if somebody hit debug on a log, that's going there too, stuff you don't want in there. And that, you got 1 million people in your BI sales team hitting it up, putting it into a report, putting it into a dashboard. It's data sprawl. And it's the idea of most people don't have good classification or tagging of their data. So you don't know that, oh, look, this person's record, Simon L., he's a customer of ours and he just asked to delete his data. I guarantee you 90% of the people that think they're GDPR compliant are not, because they go, oh yeah, it's here in our main database. What they don't know is that it went over to the data lake, was copied onto someone's drive in a pivot table in Excel, and it's sitting there and it's got Simon's name and email and address. So I think that's a big problem coming up.
It's a massive problem. And I'm looking down. I was listening to you, but I was trying to find something that one of the technical consultants sent to me from Bramfit, because it relates to the next question actually that we've got come up, which is this one. Jason, what's your advice for other CISO leaders on how they should think about new interesting vendors / solution providers, screening, etc.? OWASP, I think, have got a pretty good matrix, haven't they? Am I right in thinking with regards to tech solutions and where they're focused on different aspects of the business? I can't find the link, otherwise I'll be able to sound like I knew what I was talking about. But there's a really, really good matrix that one of the technical guys showed to me, which shows you in a visual format where all your existing tech is. So if you come in as a CISO and you want to have a look to see where your tech's focused, what's being used, you can then, and a lot of the ones I've seen, a lot of the tech's focused in the same places, being underutilized, perhaps sitting there with people not trained on how to use it, etc. Does that relate to this question? I'll go back to the question, but
yeah, it can. So I think OWASP has one. The one I'm more familiar with is called the Cyber Defense Matrix.
That's the one. Yeah, that is the one.
Yeah, yes. It's really cool. It's pretty new too, but it's a great way of looking at it. So that's a good way just to sort of generally categorize where these players in, and you'll see that there's a lot of players under identify, protect, and detect. But as you get to respond and recover, there's less, and it shows who's there. But for new vendors and new stuff, like my favorite way of doing it is going to conferences, like going to Black Hat, RSA, and walking the floor, and trying to keep my head down for people I know that are just sailing me on stuff, but understanding what's new, and research. So if you're in security, you can get hit up by research agencies that they want to pay you for their time. I've actually found 2 vendors through that Exonius was one. When CASM came out, it was new about 6 years ago, and it was an investor asking me my advice on new products. And it came through that. I was like, I didn't even know this existed, because sometimes you don't know that these products are out there. So how do I go about conferences?
The best thing I saw, I went to my first conference this year, which was in San Francisco, RSAC, and it was like running the gauntlet through that vendor hall, right, Jason? And the best T-shirt I ever saw was "I am not a decision maker," which I thought was brilliant.
That is, I need to wear that just to get,
and I wish
just to get through there.
I'm just going to see if I can share my screen quickly. Where is it? Because this is, I've lost you now. Where are we? Middle-aged men and technology. Here we go. So this is this the one you were talking about?
That is the one, yes.
Yeah, so you've got identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and then devices, application, networks, data, users. And that, I think, is a great, if that's the one you use, an amazing way to get that visual impact and knowledge of where you are at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, and it's cyberdefensematrix.com. You can find the details on that.
Let me just drop that in the chat, and then I'm going to come back to some questions that we've got in here before we wrap up. Right.
And can I high five Mohammed real quick? He said API pen testing is my favorite. Yes, APIs are the new. That's the new frontier. Like if you're not secure, your APIs are thinking about it.
Let me tell you a bit about Mohammed. So Mohammed has been in the InfoSec Live community for over a year now, one of the founding members. And I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, Mohammed, but you are one of the smartest, hardworking. What's the real word I'm looking for? Never give up people I've ever met in my life. So comes from Syria originally as a refugee, I think you're in Turkey at the moment, had an absolutely horrendous time. He's only in his 20s and he has achieved so much. And he's a great example of someone you'd want to give a job to in this industry, who's got that drive, tenacity, and passion for it. So, Mohammed, big up to you, my friend, and thank you very much for jumping in today.
Hit me up on LinkedIn, Mohammed, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. So where are we now? So yeah, I'll bring that one up, Mohammed. API pen testing, your favorite. Found a lot of logical bugs there and misconfigurations, even in security companies. Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Good question from Yuri again. How do you take care of stress at work? Oh, we're going to talk about surfing now. And how do you relax?
No, I'm gonna pull this back to a question that was asked earlier that I said nothing I would change. When they asked me, what would you do as your first job as CISO? That actually is the change I would do. I wouldn't be so stressed out. Like I was paranoid and staying up at night, worried we're going to get breached because of some critical bug that isn't getting patched fast enough.
Yeah.
And now I don't stay up at night for that because I just know it's going to happen. And when it does, all the best I can do is make sure we have a good incident response plan and a team and stay calm. Stay calm, carry on, chive on. How does that go?
And I mean, that in itself, from having stressful positions in the past myself, dealing with stress can be super difficult. For me, meditation became a big part of my life. I meditate twice a day just to try and calm down the ADHD noise in my brain, which also helps me kind of focus on
Yep.
what I need to do next. But again, exercise, he says, slightly paunchy middle-aged man here. Exercise is hugely important to both your mental health and your physical health, in my opinion. And I see from your intro that you've taken up surfing this year. I think your forte was snowboarding from what you said before, but this is it's a bit old now, but that's a very young Simon. I think I was 22 years old there with my late nan, who was 100. No, she was 93 when she came to the Canary Islands to visit me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Surfing was my go-to stress reliever. So every morning I'd be bobbing in the sea. Every night after work, I'd bob in the sea. What do you do, Jason, to de-stress?
I run, I work out. The physical, like my first thing I do in the morning is my workout, and that gets me ready for the day. So yeah, it is staying in shape is mental shape. So if you can exercise, go for a walk, take calls, walking, that's a huge one. Like if you go, I got a conference call, I got to call into, go walk around your block.
Yeah, again, for me, personal choice, nature is hugely important for me. I mean, we live in a super rural location in the east of England, surrounded by fields. And for the first 6 months of living here, after being brought up in cities, I hated it, hated the isolation, hated the darkness. But now it's changed my life, if I'm honest, spending time outside, getting that fresh air, appreciating the beauty of nature and everything. I know I sound old saying this, but it truly, truly has changed my life in a big way. And last one, here we go. Last question. What's your number one tip? Don't become one, Jeff. To avoid CISO.
That's awesome. I'm stealing that. Yeah, don't do it. No, I complete opposite. Do it. Here's a way to look at it to avoid stress, and this is true. CISOs, a lot of people, a lot of executives, businesses will think CISOs, they're in the job of risk acceptance. They accept risk. I get asked that all the time. Hey, Jason, is this okay with you? I say, I'm not making that decision. My job is not to accept risk as a CISO. No. It's to optimize risk.
Absolutely.
So once you get that off your shoulders, that it's not your responsibility. It's a responsibility of the organization to determine what to do or to put resources into it. If they don't want to spend the money and they don't want to give you your budget, that's an acceptable risk for them. As soon as I realize that, that's when I don't stress out about work. And it's just another job. I come to work. Yeah, okay, great. Oh, we have a new vulnerability. What are we doing? Okay. All right. Let's do it and do the best that we can at it and do my job.
And again, it's not if, isn't it? It's when, really, with regards to being attacked. And I think
and being prepared when you are.
Absolutely that. And you can only do as much as you can do, I think, in relation to the risk parameters.
The day of like CISOs being fired and being the scapegoat, that's over. That's not true anymore. Like people freak out like, oh, I'm going to get fired if we have a breach. No, because as long as you're communicating what the risks are to the organization and you go, hey, remember when I asked for that budget last year and I wanted this tool and we said no because we couldn't afford it.
No one likes to told you so, but I did.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Get everything and do it in email. When I have those conversations, I'm like, hey, just want to confirm that, we're good to go with this budget. And then, but it's even that's ultra paranoid. Don't worry about it. And you know what? If you do get fired, you'll find another job within weeks if you're a CISO, because like we talked earlier, Absolutely. They're, hiring CISOs left and right. They need them.
They really are. I suppose last comment, there's a lot of people watching this who I know personally who are looking to step up to that next level in the industry, whether it's, leadership of whatever shape or form, not necessarily a CISO. For me, there's a saying that I overuse quite a lot, which is your network is your net worth. And for me, one of the most important things is building up a network of trusted people around you who you can draw from their experience and get their advice. Would you agree with that, or would you give any other advice to those looking to take it to the next level?
I would agree. I have never personally done that, or I've never been successful at it. I've always gone the old school route of either applying for a job or having a recruiter look out to me for it. I've never gone through my network to get a role or a position. I mean, it's good to have that and be known. My advice,
I think what I really meant, if I could just backtrack on that a bit, it wasn't so much getting the job. It was more, I mean, you said it earlier about no one being a complete expert. Do you, as a leader, as a CISO, do you rely on people that you know on a professional basis to draw on from experience, or is that something you do from your team within?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I only have the most 90% is with my team within, because I don't have the time to bring a work problem. Plus we have NDAs and, what are we talking about? It's rare that I go outside my internal team network, but, conferences, having those conversations with other CISOs, going to some of the smaller conferences where they just get a bunch of people in a room and you're talking to your neighbor, hey, how do you like this tool or this thing? And just today, we're talking about API, that's learning. And that's sort of that peer network too, is building, being in, like your group here. It's huge to get this kind of knowledge and feedback, especially if you're looking to get to be a CISO, hearing from people like me and, more and more, not just me, but, sit in on every chat Simon has. You're going to learn so much just from those conversations.
Thank you very much. And for everyone's information, next year, I've got some plans actually for the community. And that is, I've spoken now to, I think, over 50 CISOs over the last few months. And without question, all of them have come back and said they'd be interested in getting together with their peers, especially those who work in similar industries. 50, lovely. The thing I don't like about what happens at the moment, I'll give you an example, is you obviously get vendor-sponsored events, which is fine. They've got to be paid for. But a lot of them are very formal, Jason, sit-down meal, etc. I want to try it a little bit differently. So firstly, I'm going to start running some that aren't sponsored, where they're online in a place called GatherTown, which gives, individual meeting rooms, place to collaborate, where people can just jump in, have a virtual coffee together at a certain time each week and ask each other questions. But the other one is I'm going to look at doing some physical events in the UK and the US, exactly the same, but I am going to look for some vendor support. So I've got to pay for someone to fly me over there for a start. But equally, there'll be an opportunity for them to do a 20-minute pitch. But other than that, there's no sales involved. And I want to do it a bit differently off the back of a conversation I had from another CISO called Steve Hindle, who's doing something similar in Florida at the moment, where they actually poll the CISOs prior to these events and ask what they want to hear about, rather than shoving information down their throats.
Oh, that's great.
So, for example, today, API security's come up like 2 or 3 times. So that could be something that people would want to focus on. So, yeah, watch this space for those next year. No idea on venues and dates yet, but it is coming. And all we're trying to do with this is to try and bring together the community a little bit more to share those best ideas and practice. I'm running on. We're 3 minutes over time. Jason, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'd love to have you on the show again in the future as well, if that's okay with you.
Count me in, and thank you for having me, Simon. This has been awesome. And thanks to everybody that I interacted with on this. Great questions.
Yeah, and do you know what? You must be a very popular guy, Jason. I think this is one of the most engaging chat sessions that I've seen throughout the last, 17 episodes of the CISO Experience now. So for that, I thank you very much. Yuri, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. Everyone who's jumped in, it's a pleasure. We're back. I'm not sure when, because my head is a bit of a shed this week. Got some personal things going on. But we are back. Actually, I'll check and then tell you. How's that? Rather than look stupid.
I've got the data right here.
Yeah, I've got it here. It's on my phone. So we're back next week with the next episode of the CISO Experience, and I can't find it in my phone. So I'm going to update the YouTube page a bit later for anyone who's interested. And I'm now going to sign us off and say thank you very much, Jason, and everyone. Have an amazing day.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thanks all.